Hello lovely people, Kitten here. The rep has challenged me to make a sock, just to prove I can. So I have. If you've never come across me before, my name is Kitten and I do knitting videos especially for beginners. Since I was doing this, which frightens a lot of people, I thought I'd split it into two. We'll tackle knitting in the round in this one, which is getting more and more popular. And if you want me to, I'll do one on turning the heel. It's a wiggle, but it's not difficult. So let me know if you want me to do turning a heel. Follow along for knitting in the round. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, get those figures up, and if you get stuck with anything, just drop me a message and I'll get back to you.
Down a little alley in the heart of Kendal town is a tiny independent yarn shop. Welcome to the wonderful world of the kitten and the goat.
So the rep has challenged me. Socks. We love socks. Sock yarn is a recognised thing. It is 4-ply. It is a high wool content with a nylon. You can get a 75% wool content or an 80% wool content. Well, I say wool content. I've also got this is bamboo with the wool. So possibly it might be best to think of it as the nylon content is the most important. It has to have the nylon for the socks, otherwise it don't wear. Honestly, it just disintegrates. You can use it for other things. Obviously, it's a 4-ply. It will knit to any 4-ply pattern. It's only called sock wool because of the nylon content that makes it strong. This is the James Brett. I'm getting really good reports of this. It's nice to knit with. It's a little bit softer in the hands than the all wool. You need one ball for a pair of socks. My serious knitters buy 2 balls and get 3 pairs because you get some left over from the ball that you've made a pair of. It's a dreadful label on the front of Funny Feet because that is not what it works up like. Why they've done that, goodness only knows. It just looks silly. It knits up. It's a self-patterning, kind of biggish Fair Isle pattern. And it's thin. Oh gosh, why am I doing this? I have downloaded a free pattern. This is what King Cole used to give away with the balls of ice. So you can make drums and hats and stuff. Knitting Network free pattern. I have got 325 is the same as 1 1/4 millimeters. Some knitting needles it will say 3.25. Some it will say 3 1/4, and the same when you get to the fractions higher, 3.5, 3 1/2, 3.75, 3 3/4. They are usually worked around there. You know, it's 1/4 millimeter. If you haven't got 325, use 3 1/2. Seriously, it's 1/4 millimeter. It ain't gonna make that much difference. Let me see now. Socks. You don't change rib to a smaller needle because you know it's when we're constantly off and on. So you don't particularly want your rib in a smaller size. It is done called in the round, which means you just knit round and round and round in a circle on. They come in sets of 4 or 5, doesn't really matter, it's personal preference. Probably won't have enough stitches on the needle for 4. So you've got 3 working ones, 1 in your hand. Personally, I like to cast on with straight needles just simply because I find it easier, and then share them out. I don't like to cast on these because they've got no stopper either end, they're double pointed. And we all know how uncoordinated I am. It comes straight off the end of the other end. So there you go. Exactly the same way to cast on that we always do. Keep it fairly loose. Don't pull it tight. I'm going to make the smallest size, so I'm going to cast on 44. I'm going to make the smallest size because I am not a sock person, and the chances of me actually making a pair are pretty slim. I'm only doing this because Steve said, "No, you can't do that. Make a pair of socks. You've got too many pink. Make a pair of socks." So I'm making a sock with the pink yarn. Right, so I'm going to cast on my stitches. I'm not going to bore you with counting them. And then we are going to spread them out and get going. Okay. Now then, let's get you sorted. To be able to work in the round, obviously, you've got to be in the round. So, we're going to start working on our short needles. One, two. Work the rib first. So I'm going to keep catching that. Oh, it's so skinny, I'm not used to it. 2, 1, 2. You want to roughly divide it equally between your 3 needles. So when you think you've got, there's no set pattern, so don't worry about getting it wrong. When you think, yeah, that's about a third-ish, you can always jiggle with it later. Want to bring in another one? You just scoot that out of the way, and you literally, this is me being paranoid, because until you get something to hang on to, you do have to watch your ends. Don't worry too much about anything much at the moment. Just concentrate on laying your pattern down, sharing your stitches out, because when you've, oops, have I done one of those, two there, you see, 2 of those, I need 2 of those, where am I going? Pearl, pearl, knit, knit, pearl, pearl. Yeah, don't talk and lay a pattern down at the same time, because that doesn't work. 2, 1, 2. Oh, look about right, that looks about right. Scoot that to the middle. Get another one. You thought chopsticks were hard, didn't you? Knit. 2. 2. Knit. 2. Pearl. 2. Knit. 2. Now, this is what I mean by scoot your needle into the middle because it's hanging on down there and it's just the friction against the yarn at the moment that's keeping it in place. Right, don't need your long ones anymore. Got 3 needles. Now the trick is, let's see, line your little soldiers up. We're going to bring this round to here. Let me show you. That's your straight line. That's how you've worked it in your straight line. Yeah? This end has to be joined to this end. So you're going to bring this point, let the middle one take care of itself, to this point. Now, it really is important that you make sure that this bit all sticks down. It's not too bad with the short rows because you can see it. Make sure you've got all this hanging down and you haven't got this wrapped round and twisted, because you will get a twist in your socks. Ask me how I know that. Okay, that looks fine. So we're going to scoot this one to the point. We're going to take another needle. You'll be able to see where we don't look at that. I should have, that hasn't slipped. That should be there. That should be there. Okay. Come here, little monkey. Right. So we're going to knit into the first one. Get ready for your knit. We are going to no, not that one. That one. 3 holding them, 1 working it. We're going to knit, knit. That's a pearl I didn't finish off properly, so don't worry about it. That should be oh, come here, little monkey. That should be in there. So that is a pearl, yeah. Drop that. That's your pearl. And we're coming to the front of this one to do pearl, pearl. Hang on to the work with this here. You want to be slightly below the stitch. Are we in focus? I think so. Slightly below the stitch so you can see that we're doing knit. That will sort itself out eventually once you've got a bit of depth. I ain't gonna lie to you, kiddos. The first round, okay, the first 2 or 3 rounds, are tricky because you got these haven't got anything holding them in place. You've got nothing to hang on to, but it will get better. Just slowly plod along, get to the end of the stitches on that needle. You're working them exactly as you see them. Once you get to the end of the stitches, you have, wonder of wonders, a free needle. That needle now becomes the needle that you work with. So you can scoot those along out of the way. you need these stitches at the end of the needle. You don't need these stitches at the end of it. You do need to make sure this is down and not twisted in any way. We're going to ignore that one completely. We want the yarn at the front because we're going to purl, and we're going to work these stitches on this needle here. Purl, purl. Now just go slow. I am seriously, I'm not slowing down for you. This is the speed I would be working at whether you were watching me or not. Just let the other needles do what they want. As long as you've got the stitches away from the points so they don't slip, don't worry about them. Your entire focus is going on the needle that you're working on and moving the stitches to your working needle. As I say, once you get a couple of rounds under your belt, they're called rounds, just so you know, not rows. If you're working a pattern, then you will need a stitch marker because you will need to know where your round starts. Yeah. All we have to do for the welt of the sock is do a couple of centimetres in this rib. So once we've worked all the stitches on that needle, that now becomes the needle that you're working with. So you hold on to that one. See how we're starting to get around, taking shape? And we want, you can see the stitch you've just finished because it's here. And we're going to start here. We're going to be knitting, so we want that there. Take a moment when you change needles to make sure that that first one is tight, because of where they sit across each other. They will stretch the yarn. Yeah, see, it's getting easier already. And loosen the stitch. So if you're getting a couple of inches up your sock and you think, why have I got a ladder effect? That's why. It's because when you change from one needle to the other, you must keep your yarn tight so that you don't stretch it and get that ladder effect. It's not the end of the world. Don't worry about it. You know, stuff happens. It'll take you a little while to get the hang of it all, obviously, just because it's a whole new thing. And knit, knit. Particularly that, you see that? That's going to be a big gap. But I'm not going to worry about it because I'm showing you. We're going slowly and carefully, and that is far more important. And we can correct it by giving a nice big tug. There we go. I'm not going to worry. You've got a bit of a tail there. You can always put a securing piece across the top, which is a good idea anyway. Now you've got a bit of substance. Now you can see where you're going. Now you can start to sort yourself out. Okay. Whoopsie daisies. So, that is it. We are going to continue doing that. Now you starting to get, once these stitches start holding your needle, it will be much easier. You'll progress much quicker. There you go. It's already starting to feel more comfortable. You will get used to it. Once you get yourself a circle sorted out, you will get used to it. Most people knit around the outside of the circle. with it facing them and the other needles behind. I've seen one or two people do it the other way around, but it's not the end of the world. Whatever's more comfortable. I tend to let it do what it does, just let it settle. Let it settle into its shape. Once you get a bit going, there you go, see, look, it's starting to be easier already. And the lovely thing about most sock yarns are self-patterning these days. There's very, very little plain colour self yarns around, which makes it a bit more fun, doesn't it? So this is the one I'm working on now, and push that to the end, bring that to the front, make sure it's tight, pull it hard, purl, knit, knit, just carry on. I think the pattern says 2 centimetres. Obviously, it's your socks. Once you've decided if you like a big long rib or not, what have you, you do you. So let's knit a couple of centimetres, just like that, going round and round in circles until we get the right length. And when you get to the end, that one becomes your working needle. Okay, I'll do that little bit and then you can see how we're getting on. Here's our little cuff. I think I've done reasonably well. Now, I think the big bonus that people like about socks is the pattern, because I've gone round roughly to where I started, and once you get to knit the body of the socks, you don't have to think about it, you don't have to keep track, you just instantly start, oh gosh, knitting exactly the same way as if you were changing from a rib to a plain in a jumper. And you just knit. This bit is going to go down the leg to the heel. So if you just want shorter ones, then possibly you might only want a couple of inches. If you want to go a bit longer, you might want 3 or 4 inches. And there you just knit. If you forget to change onto your new needle, I've done this before and I just keep working, and you suddenly think, oh look, I'm on 2 needles. It doesn't matter, because you can just scoop the first few stitches off and keep working. You can just keep working. There's no purl stitch when you're knitting in the round, because you're working from the front. I mean, obviously all these caveats as long as you're not working a pattern and various things, but if you're just working stocking stitch, you're just going around and round and round in a plain tube. That is literally all you do, is you knit along and you just keep knitting, that you don't ever turn the work round, because you don't need to. Making me wish I'd done a slightly bigger size now, so I had more stitches. So it was slightly bigger, it is only teeny weeny weeny, but it is only just to show you how it goes. And literally you just keep going until you've got down to where you're going to do what they call turning a heel. And that's not difficult, honestly. But by then you've got loads of stuff on your needle. You're absolutely fine. It's just knitting backwards and forwards between 2 points. Oops. Until you've got what you want. When you put your work down to finish it, put it down like that and leave it with all your things lined up, so that when you come back to it, everything's ready to work again. Make sure you don't leave it with the stitches near the end of the point, just in case the cat comes along and knocks your bag and knocks your point, the stitches off the point. It is a little more difficult to pick up stitches when you're working in the round, because you haven't got the space to stretch out and expand into like you do when you're knitting on a straight line. You can stretch it out over the whole needle. You can't do that with this, obviously, because you haven't got very many needles and it goes scooting off the end. Which is what problem you're trying to solve in the first place. So that's it. And we just go round and round and round and round and round until we decide we're going to do a heel. So I guess I'll keep going. And when you've finished your work, line all the needles up like that, just work into the middle, put it down. When you come to pick it up and restart, you might be confused where to start. So look for your working yarn, which is on this one. So it's going to join on to that next, and just start working again. Just keep going round. So I carried on a little bit further. I have to say, it's very therapeutic just sitting, knitting. It's fairly mindless, as in you can just let your mind drift and carry on and poodle around. You don't have to think about the pattern you're doing. You don't have to count anything. You go round and round and round, just knitting. I'm actually really quite pleased with it. It's a long time. It's a very long time since I've done anything like this. And I think that's, I think that's reasonable. There's a place, didn't quite pull it tight enough. But it'll move over, they're hand knitted. There's a little bit. See, I was talking, you get a bit of a ladder. But it soon settles. It'll soon settle in and blend in. All knitting in the round. There you go, you can see where it's a bit gappy there. Same thing. It's because I haven't. It'll soon settle. Sorry, all knitting in the round. That's the basic technique. Whether you're going to do socks, kind of wish I'd done a bigger one so it showed the pattern more. Because this yarn is self-patterning. Socks, jumpers, hats, sleeves, anything. It's all kind of the same technique. Okay, well that'll start you off. So, I hope that's given you a few guidelines. Do have a go at knitting in the round, especially jumpers. Saves you sewing them up. And you just, work the pattern together. So, yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Yeah. Excellent. Quick little aside for you. If you have to count the rounds and you have a pattern on each needle, I have a way of doing it. Normally when you decrease, you work your pattern row, and then on the way back, it's usually a purl row, it's plain. You can't tell that from this because you're not turning round. So that's a pattern row, and for each I've got it on 3 needles. Every time you finish a needle you put a stroke. So that's my next pattern row. Every time I go across a needle I make a stroke. That's going back to the same pattern, so each needle is a stroke. This is a repeat of that pattern row, so you've got one for each. If you happen to put your work down, like I'm in the shop, I'm serving customers, if I have to put my work down and pick it up instantly, if I've got where's it gone? If I've got the 2, I know I'm on row 2. If I've got 2 with a line beside it, I know I've worked the first needle and there's the second needle, because the second needle is different to the first needle. And then again, once I've done the second needle, I know that, and the third needle is different again. So it's just a little aside of how you can count rounds, so you know where you are if you put your pattern down. Other than that, if you're just counting how many rounds you've done, you can put a marker on it, and then you'll know where you are if you're just working straight rounds. That's it for our technique video this month. I hope it was some use to you. We're a small independent knitting shop in Kendal. If you want to visit, we have a proper website and we specialise in helping beginner knitters. I'm a very experienced knitter, and I put out a free pattern video and a technique video every month. If you want to be on the email list to get your free pattern, Kitten and the Goat Kendal, I'll put a link down below in the thing. Please do subscribe, tick the like box, it all helps the numbers, everything helps. We haven't hit our magic number yet, but I'm looking to hit the magic number this year. We've changed the routine slightly this year. The first Friday of the month you get your free pattern. The second Friday of the month there isn't a video, but we do a blanket club on the website and you'll get a square to knit for your blanket. And then the third Friday of the month is the technique pattern. So if you want to get your free patterns, be on the email list. If you've got any ideas or techniques or anything you want explained, drop me a line and we'll see what we can include. See you later.